So here's my little video about the boats that I've been driving lately. And I'm going to try to make this video kind of short and sweet. The kayaks that I am running are called Mokais, like Motorized Kayak, and that is the name of the company. Now, I don't know if it's a big company or small company. I suspect it's very small. I have tried to contact them for about 8 months actually via email, have never received a reply. So I'll just leave it at that. But let me show you the boats. I've done some modifications to them. These are older boats. You cannot buy these anymore, in fact. They've changed the design of the new ones that they sell. And in the eyes of many, people like me and people that fish and like to go in very shallow water, they have ruined them. And I'll explain that to you as we take a look at them. So this is what we have. These are two boats that I bought used. They're 2012. So, you know, they've been around a little while. They're actually pretty good looking when I first bought them. They're not so good looking now. But I'm just going to show you real quick, you know, how they operate, you know, how they work. Basically, what you have is this. Now, you have your kayak design, although per a lawsuit, this isn't a kayak design. It's actually a boat design. But nah, we won't get into that. Let's not get into that. Back to the boat. So basically what you have is a kayak boaty design. You have lots of room in here. If you look up in the cockpit, there used to be big flotation devices up in here bolted in, and I took them out because I would rather be able to put gear in there with the danger that, of course, if it swamps, it might sink, I guess. It operates like this. This is the throttle in the directional thing. Fast, slow, right, left, okay? When you turn this, you know, for right or left, if you look in the back here, you can see the jet pump exhaust, and watch it. So that's how you turn. Pretty simple, really. And when you hit your throttle, of course, you can see on the little Subaru motor, that's the throttle. But you can't buy them like this anymore. What they have now, and it's unfortunate from what I understand, are electronic servos. It's like a little tiny thing that you go, you know, it's supposed to be really fancy. But the problem is, it's an electronic servo in a boat that gets wet and covered with mud. You know, because fishermen use these. You really want these for shallow water. That's what they're best suited for. And having read a lot of the forums online, the guys are actually ripping out the electronic servo parts and putting these things back in, where you actually have cables that go back and forth, and they just don't break. You know, they're much more reliable. You don't want to be 20 miles down a river in the wilderness and have the electronic servo go and, you know, fry. So that's one change that they made that most people are very, very unhappy with. Again, this has been modified a lot by me with things like this. That, you know, I'm not going to go into right now, but they have. Okay, so you have a little Subaru motor here. I believe it's a 7 horsepower. And this thing pops right out. You can unhook everything in about 30 seconds or less. There's a lever down here, and you can lift the motor out. Unfortunately, the design of the plate that the motor sits on is flawed. It has holes for the motor that the legs sit down in on the plate that are almost exactly the same as the little legs that sit in them. So it's very, very tight to sit them in there or set them in there. And that's a huge problem because you get one grain of sand and you can't do it. Now, all you have to do is ream it out a little bit. It sits down in there easily, and then it slides back and locks in. I don't know why they have it designed like that. It's a stupid, terrible design. They just need to make the holes a tiny bit bigger, and everyone would be happy. Alright, so we talked about the motor. That just pops out, little Subaru motor. You got your gas tank here. I can get about 40 miles out of one of those, which is nice. And this is a jet drive. As you've noticed in my videos, there is no propeller, so I can go over rocks, you bounce off rocks. It's really neat. So let's take a look underneath. See, there's no propeller underneath there. All you have is this grate right here. And the water gets sucked up in here like this. Now, a problem that you run into on the river is if it leaves or sticks and get up in here, it'll bog the engine down. You have to clean it out. And I have to do that all the time, but it's actually pretty simple. You just pull into shallow water. You just take your hand, you go a couple times underneath there, you know, back and forth like that, and you clean it out. This is the nozzle for the jet drive. And I took this one out over here so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, if you look up in here, you can see the grate, and the water comes up through here. and comes through you know, the jet drive right here, and this is the jet drive that I took out. The Subaru engine spins this shaft. That spins like that, and that drives it forward. Okay, so it's really, really simple. It's great. I love it. Absolutely love it. But you know what? You can't buy them quite like this anymore. They don't make them. They changed the design. They changed the design to get more speed out of the boat. But you can't go in shallow water anymore. And heaven forbid, if you see a rock, steer clear. I'll tell you what they did. What they did is they took this pump. Now they redesigned this whole thing. It's different, okay? It's no longer one piece. It's actually 3 separate pieces that you bolt together, which I guess makes it easier to transport. But it's 3 separate pieces that you have to bolt together every time you want to use it, or you know, at least the one time you want to put it together to use it. But the problem is, and I've seen this on some videos on YouTube, is that the seams aren't real good in them, you know, where they join, and the water will shoot out the sides. So you're driving along and the water's getting sucked up into these seams and shooting out the side like fountains, and it's pretty ridiculous. Maybe they'll fix it, I don't know. But back to the jet pump. You can see this jet pump is very protected. It's up in the body of the kayak, so if you hit a rock, nothing's going to happen to it. You're just going to scratch your plastic, which to me isn't a big deal. However, what they have done is they took this and they moved it out. So it sticks out like this, like a great big stinger. Now the problem with that is, of course, is if you back into a rock or you hit a rock and like this, it's going to snap this off, or at least bend it and bend the shaft and mess everything up. Why they did that, no one knows. Other than the boats do go a little faster now. So they basically have turned this thing more into like a jet ski for some reason than a boat that goes in very shallow water, very shallow rocky water, where you feel very protected against having breakdowns when you hit rocks. You can't take the new ones in rocks. Just don't do it. I mean, just don't do it. And the 3-piece design, I think, is a problem as well. The servo is a problem. So you have to get an older boat if you want to have one that's nice and rugged. In my opinion, and the opinion of many online, the new boats really just don't cut the mustard, or cut the muster, depending on how you want to say that. But they've been selling them for a couple years, and there's a waiting list. So, I guess they're getting what they want. They were able to jack the price up a little bit more, and made some people happy, but really made a lot of people very unhappy. But I'm happy because I got the older ones. So if you can find older ones, I'd recommend it. Certain years are better than others. Get online, do some research. But that's it. Oh yeah, no, one other thing. These are a little bit heavy, okay? They weigh like 150 pounds or something like that, fully loaded with the engine and stuff. So you can't really pick them up and move them, but they sell a little thing called a Mo-Cart, which is basically something that sits, you can set the back of the boat on, you can tow it around. It makes it very easy. In fact, I'll go ahead and pick this thing up for you since I'm here. The nice thing about these things is you can turn the motor off and you get your paddles out and it turns into a kayak. And it's actually pretty easy to paddle. But so you can pick these things up, even though it's very heavy, and you can move them around no problem with those wheels. If you buy one of these, I highly recommend you get some of those wheels. Now I had to modify that too so that it works a little better than the way it came from the factory. Okay, any questions, go ahead and shoot them to me. I'm not going to link this company because I'm not really that happy with them. And that's all she wrote. Awesome boats. I highly recommend them if you can get the older model. And these are 2012s. That's all I have to say. I wish I could have been a little more positive in that, but I'm still a little bit peeved at those people.